All right, everyone. Here we are at this May LAFCo meeting. So welcome to the Butte Local Agency Formation Commission meeting of May 4th, 2023. Please join me in a salute to the flag of our nation. Ready?
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Like to bring us together before you know it's controversy. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bolin,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Chair Connolly,
Here.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Here.
Commissioner McGreehan, Commissioner Sharman, Commissioner Betts,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Rust, alternate Commissioner Bradley,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Ritter, alternate Commissioner Shepherd. Thank you.
Thank you. First up is our consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Was there any public comment on any items?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We have nobody zooming in, correct? So I'm good. All right, good. Regular agenda, City of Chico Canyon Road Annexation number 8, certification of protest hearing.
You want to actually go through this?
Oh, I'm sorry, because see, I'm used on the county. Everything on 3 is a consent. So that's why you guys need to put a, like a 4 or 5 there. I mean, no. Let's try it. Review and consideration on the final budget for fiscal year 2023-24. That sounded like a consent item to me. All right.
My apologies. I have nothing to add since our last meeting related to the budget. So part of this recommendation is to approve the final budget as is been submitted and supported by the committee on the budget. There's a second piece of this we talked about last time. It dealt with the county contractual services agreement and our cost for human resources, specifically payroll. I just want to advise all of you that, and I know some of you commissioner or supervisors know this, but I have been in contact with the county on a regular basis the last couple of weeks, and we are moving forward with a process to seek an outside service contract for that. I'll double down on what I said before. I honestly believe the county has an obligation under the contract. I think Mr. Brown's memorandum supports that. Having said that, I think in the future, moving forward, it's probably in everybody's best interest on a cost basis alone that we seek a new payroll service. And I'm currently doing that in a similar way as BCAG has been currently doing it as well. They're in the same situation we are. So I just want to let you know that the budget is fine as it's proposed. And that item, although it's significant, we're working through it. Supervisor Kimmelshoe and Supervisor Connolly have participated in some of that discussion, helped me in that process. So I think we're going to be closer to a place where we're going to look for an outside service for payroll, which will be a substantial cost reduction for LAFCo. So in the end, my job is to make your budget as lean as it can be without reducing any of our service. And I think this is probably the better way to go moving forward. So today I'm going to continue to recommend you adopt the final budget and we conclude this process, and I'll continue to report back on the progress towards a new payroll service. That's all I have for you.
Questions or comments by board members? Any public comment on this matter? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. 3.2, City of Biggs, West Rio Benito Road, annexation number 1.
All right, good morning, commissioners. This is a city initiated annexation from the city of Biggs to take in 13 parcels totaling approximately 80 acres in size. The territory is located on the south side of West Rio Benito Road and on the north side of B Street on the easterly edge of the city of Biggs. As I mentioned, this is city initiated. It's the first part of a 3-phase process for the city to increase its overall land available for development. no development is proposed at this time. However, it will just increase available land as developers come along. The city did prepare an environmental document discussing the potential environmental impacts associated with development of that land. And so it's basically ready, prime for developers to come along and propose housing. The site can support up to 441 single-family homes and 38 multifamily residences, which is a significant increase for the city of Biggs. The area is within the sphere of influence for the city of Biggs and is supported by the 2015 Municipal Service Review and SOI update for the city of Biggs. Today, I'm asking that this commission adopt resolution 2022-23. You have in front of you an amended version that includes the width of right-of-way on West Rio Bonito and on the southerly side of the annexation territory. That's after a conversation with the Public Works Director with the County of Butte, and is also consistent with LAFCo policies that encourage logical streets when annexations are done. So I'm asking today that you adopt the resolution with the amended exhibit. And it does include a condition of approval that any future development of the site, the city of Biggs would work in coordination with Reclamation District 833 as far as drainage for that area goes. Concur with the city of Biggs environmental document that they've prepared, and also waive protest proceedings for this project. And that can all be done by adopting the amended version of resolution 2022-23.
Question.
I'm sorry, we do have staff from the city of Biggs available to answer questions or give updates if you need any.
Questions or comments by board members?
I do. Just to be clear that no written objections to the annexation have been received.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. How many landowners, and maybe Mr. Cook can answer this in that area? Is one of the landowners the high school?
The school district is.
School district owns a
portion.
portion of this, right?
Yes,
And that is, when you talk about how many dwellings, units, you are excluding the school district.
Correct,
Land, okay.
yes.
So there's what, you know how many landowners? No?
How many notices we send? Probably less than,
I'm just looking at them
I
and it
know.
doesn't look like there's very many parcels.
you're right.
Yeah.
13 parcels total, and some are owned by the school district.
Okay. I just wondered if anybody was ready to pull the trigger, if they'd talked to developers, how soon this might happen.
Sure, perhaps they have more information on that.
Largest land, I'm Josh Cook, the city administrator from Biggs, and the largest parcel is the school district. There was a 25-acre parcel that recently sold that is on B Street and then runs north. It's a 25-acre parcel. That's probably one, it's adjacent to the city's sewer and electrical services right now. That'd probably be the place where you would see residential development start. The high school is going to have a conversation about what they want to do with their giant piece of property that runs along Rio Bonito Road. It's not something that we've had a conversation with them about. They consented to the annexation, but their land use future, I'm not sure what their planning mechanism is for that. Not a lot of school districts have that problem. Matter of fact, most school districts are stuck with whatever they got in the 1950s and 60s. That's the land they have, and they don't have the luxury that the Biggs Unified School District has. But we anticipate looking forward. There's that 25 acres, which was recently sold by an LLC to the Shepherd family, who lives across the street from it. That's a logical next step in growth and increased residential housing.
Thank you. I think that is a fantastic thing that the school district has as much land as it does have, because if there is going to be growth in Biggs, that I'm sure the school district and the schools will need to be expanded. So the fact that they have the land to do that, I think is a real positive for the city of Biggs. The city of Biggs has a lot of good things going for it. All this land would also, if developed, would be part of the new sewer district or the new sewer system in Biggs. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments by board members? We'll open public comment. Anyone from the public like to speak on this? Wishes of the board.
Wait, we might have someone.
Oh, you want to speak? You got to jump up, man.
Real quick, I'm Bob Somerville. I'm the contract city planner for Biggs. And I just want to give you an update on the rest of this planning effort. So this is, of course, a phase one of this effort. This is funded by the SB2 grant that Biggs was awarded a couple of years ago. Again, this is phase one. This is an actual city initiated annexation. The other three phases, which are identified as phase 2A, B, and C, and they progress from Dakota Avenue on the south, northerly to Rio Bonito. Those phases are, and this phase one, are encompassed in a planning document. So these other three phases, phase 2A, B, and C, are part of a planning document to encourage development within those areas. And the document includes infrastructure study, environmental study. It involved over a year's worth of public outreach, including the school district. Essentially, there was no objection to this. Again, over a year's worth of public outreach. This planning document is in draft form right now. It is back with our consultant, Placeworks, Mark Teague of Placeworks, and we hope to bring that forward to the city council in Biggs for adoption in August. It doesn't require LAFCo review and approval, although we are certainly going to keep LAFCo and yourselves informed. It's been heavily helped by Shannon and Steve Lucas to bring it to this point. And so we want to just keep you all informed with it. Be happy to take any questions if you have any.
How many acres is the other three phases?
Well, so this one is around 77 acres. The rest of it is just under 500.
Well,
You know, the city of Biggs right now is 488, I think, in total. So this, you know, the whole effort could potentially double
Right.
the city. Again, however, the other three phases, there's no actual applications to annex. Those will all be privately developer driven. All the zonings that might come into play, everything will be consistent with the existing general plan designations on the books right now with Biggs. That's the way we premised the whole plan. So
and Biggs is interested in annexing those one if it comes forward.
yes. This
Good for
has
you.
been underway for, again, just over 2 years, I think. And
Good job.
Yeah, so you don't anticipate those annexations coming to us in the near future?
again, it would be developer driven.
Okay.
We hope it comes as soon as possible.
Well, yeah, so do we.
Yeah,
but,
and so this is almost, in a sense, a marketing document. It's available again to the public, and we'll probably put it out there to various developers and say, hey, take a look at this. We'll load it on the city's website. And so we hope it'll streamline, kind of be a how-to manual for development to come on along.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I approach again?
Yeah,
I just wanted to, I think it's.
you're public.
Thanks. I appreciate your desire to be efficient and put all the debate on the consent agenda. So this is, you run a good meeting.
I'm known to have record fast meetings.
There-
People don't get up and talk. That's just-
And I get to go twice. On behalf of the city council of Biggs and the people of Biggs, I'd like to thank the LAFCO staff and their leadership in helping us get in this direction. There's a lot of reasons why the city needs to grow to be able to remain a vibrant and wonderful community. We've made major investments over the last 10 years in more than doubling our sewer capacity, finding ways to be more environmentally sensitive in how we handle water, wastewater, and the other effects of the city there, and working with agricultural buffers. I don't think we should have a meeting without recognizing the fact that with the city of Gridley, Councilmember Johnson, those are some issues that will be coming to LAFCO. And this level of cooperation is something that we appreciate a great deal, having the ability to work with our other sister cities and the county and LAFCo in a cooperative way. And we think that this is good for Biggs. This is also going to be good for Gridley, and Gridley will have issues coming north towards Biggs. And Biggs is going to have, we desire to get to the highway, and Gridley has a pattern of growth that is coming towards Biggs. And so we think that California has a housing crisis, and we need to streamline the process and get results. And so I anticipate that all of you will be able to go back to your constituents, tell them that you've done something significant to help the housing problem in California. You made Biggs bigger. And for that, we thank you.
Oh, can anyone top that? Anybody want to speak? Okay, we'll close the public comment. Now wishes of the board.
I would move to approve this annexation.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Could have been on a consent. I'm sorry. 2303, 4.2, City of Chico, Chico Canyon Road Annexation number 8. Certification of protest hearing.
All right, so this is a follow.
Certification.
There
Sorry,
you go.
I'm awake.
This is a follow-up to our February 2nd, 2023 meeting where this commission adopted resolution 06-2022-23, approving the annexation of Chico Canyon Road, annexation number 8, subject to completion of protest proceedings. We did hold a protest hearing up until March 29th, 2023. And just to remind you, government code provides that the commission must either terminate the proceedings if 50% or more registered voters file a written protest, order the annexation subject to confirmation of the registered voters, or order annexation without an election if protests are filed by less than 25% of the registered voters, or less than 25% of landowners owning less than 25% of the assessed land value. So the results of that protest hearing were that valid protests were received by 40% of the registered voters in the territory and 63% of landowners owning 55% of the assessed land value. So that triggers an election of the registered voters in the territory. So today I'm asking that you would adopt resolution 22-22-23, confirming the results of the protest hearing and informing the City of Chico City Council of the results of the election of the protest proceeding, and requesting that the City Council direct the elections official to conduct the necessary election. And you'll find that the resolution does in number C or letter C. For some reason, I have the wrong date there. So I will correct that. Shall order adopted on February 2nd, 2023. So I'll make that correction to this resolution. But we have been in contact with the City Chico clerk and their staff, so they are aware what's coming their way, and we will work closely with them to ensure that the process goes smoothly.
Questions or comments by the board?
Yeah, one question, Shannon, when would that election be held? Do you tie it to an upcoming election?
That's up for the clerk to decide.
Okay.
She's the elections official, and she will follow the elections code. So once it's handed off onto her plate, she has certain timelines that she'll have to meet. And I've tried to be in contact with her to ask if she would potentially put it. They've got that big election coming up for Tuscan, or I'm sorry, for for Valley's Edge. And so I'm not sure what her plan will be. I can follow up once we hear something.
So since there were enough protests to trigger an election, this was one of those island annexations that we were required by the state of California to annex, correct? So if in fact the election is successful and they decide not to annex, there's nothing, we've done our part, right? We've done what we're supposed to do. The state of California will not come in and chastise us for not doing our job.
We have you'll recall that there's an annexation agreement between the city Chico and Butte LAFCo to take in all these islands. And so as far as we're concerned, the city Chico has satisfied their requirement to apply for annexation for the islands. And we've considered the islands, and this is just the process playing out as it's allowed to do. So.
And if I can just add to that, to be clear, Shannon's correct. The city has met their obligations. The reason this is different is because it exceeds 150 acres in size. If it had not, there would be no protest proceeding. There would have been no election. This is just one of those rare ones. And we knew going into it, this was a possibility. We didn't realize how many people would be opposed, but fair amount of folks came forward. But nonetheless, once if this succeeds, it's annexed. If it fails, then we still have the opportunity to go work with the city on another process. We have to wait a year, but we can come back with another review and possibly a different type of annexation proposal. So it's not the end of the line, but it's the end of the line for this particular piece based on our agreement with the city.
So just to clarify, if this would have been under 150 acres, there would have been no protests, no nothing.
We would have
Correct.
waived protest hearing, just like we did for the other 3 annexations. We were able to waive protest proceedings
Right.
because of the size, but we could not do that.
Okay, that's good, because I don't remember any protest proceedings for the other
Correct.
annexations in the city of Chico.
And just so the commission knows, Mr. Connolly knows this for being on LAFCo, we consistently look to raise that 150 acre size. We tried years ago to raise it to 300 around the state for a lot of really good reasons. And this is a classic example. There are a lot of islands and other agencies around the state that do not have, that are larger than 150. And as much as they would love to get rid of those islands, there's no way they can force it. So, in a way, this becomes now a test case, if you will. If this fails, it's just another quiver in our arrow in our quiver to go back and say, we need to raise that number. It's not sufficient for LAFCOs around the state to clean up those islands. 150 acres is just too small. But
Good point.
But why is it so important that we get them annexed into, if they really don't want to be, why is that so important?
well, the reality of it is that we are obligated by the state law to promote efficient boundaries. and
Promote
efficient-
it, but once we promoted it and they voted against it, I mean,
No, you're correct. You're absolutely right. We will not push it or initiate it.
Right.
But if they come back later, I mean, ultimately, we all know that it's best if the services can be consolidated and it reduces costs and efficiencies. And that's on one side. And then there's your side, which your point is there's people's particular views about whether they want to
Right.
be a part of one agency or another.
right,
I will
Right.
say, unfortunately for those people, and Mr. Brown might elaborate, they have no constitutional right to where they live. And that's the basis of all annexations. You have you can't object outside of our process. So folks are trying to, Congress or the legislature, often trying to be Congress, wants to try to control that and get those islands incorporated so that the counties that surround those cities then can reallocate the services within the cities out to the more rural areas of the county. So
right, it's more efficient.
right. But your point is well taken. There is a process for protest. This one was eligible for that. They spoke, they submitted their forms, and
Right,
we're going through the process. And if they voted down, they voted down.
right.
And we're not going to, I want to clarify, it came across a little off on your part. I'm sorry. I got to correct you just a little bit.
Please do.
We at LAFCO will not initiate an annexation in that case. It will be up to the city in the future. And what could happen is one of the neighbors wants to annex and then it gets under 150 acres, then it's automatic. But until that point, we as LAFCO don't go out and initiate it,
Okay.
right? We
That's
had
what
an
it sounded to
agreement.
me is after a year, we.
Well, yeah, but there was a
Mm.
problem. Let me give you a little history real quick. They had islands all over Chico, and that meant really even with mutual aid, it's confusing, right?
Absolutely.
Police,
Got it.
fire, all
Got
this
it.
stuff, and it
Yep.
needed to be cleaned up.
Right.
This is one they don't want to be. We are not, as LAFCO, going out to initiate an annexation. It came across like we're not. Right?
My apologies.
Yeah,
You're correct.
right.
Okay.
And you were right to speak up because there's a balance. I think we're in balance. Okay, with that stated.
Oh, hold on, one quick, and I'm sorry to belabor the issue. But do you know what the largest parcel in that annexation area? And the reason I asked that, if you recall 4 or 5 meetings ago, when we first decided to do this, at the same time, we approved a parcel to be annexed into the city of Chico because that person wanted to divide it and develop it.
Mhm.
So the reason I'm asking this, if there was a 5-acre parcel, I know there's several 1 and 2 and 3-acre parcels in that area. If one of those parcel owners wanted to develop that property to the standards of the city of Chico, they could apply for annexation, correct?
Absolutely.
And there
correct.
would not be any protest because it would be under 150 acres.
No, because it gotta be contiguous and
Yeah.
was gonna
yeah, it can't be, you
Let's-
can't leapfrog.
Let's
Yeah,
be
right.
Clear about just, so if it's
That was
a
a
single
really good question.
parcel wants to come in, the first course of action is we would just like to see that it's 100% consent with of all the landowners. So forget the island thing. If a single parcel, large parcel comes in that's contiguous to the city,
Then
they
it's
can
good.
go it alone. And since they agree, then it's an automatic, basically, as long as the commission agrees. If it's separated from the city boundary and they want annex, then there's going to need to be connectivity.
Right.
In that case, you might not get 100% consent, but you still might end up with the majority of the protest in favor because the one landowner might be substantially larger and have greater value on his property than the other landowner. And then the final piece would be, yes, if an annexation would be possible under 150, and that's another way to waive everything across the board. So
But-
there's kind of 3 ways it could go that could all result in waivers, but we won't know until something happens.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm just asking the question, trying to educate myself.
And I just want to
that.
clarify that for this particular island, we've excluded the largest parcel, the 4-acre parcel, to be annexed separately. And the largest parcels in this territory would be up in the Falcons Point area, and they're probably 1.5 acres. And they're limited in development because they don't have sewer.
And just for clarification, the 150 acres, you can't whittle that down and then use, okay, I wanted to make sure that's, I'm going back to my LAFCo days. Is that, so you can't do spot annexations and whittle that down to below 150 because it's state law says as of the date, if it wasn't under 150, you can't do that. So that's a little more limitations.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll repeat myself. We LAFCO do not initiate annexations, just so I don't want to get any phone calls or emails about coming after us. All right, do we have a motion yet? Any other public comment? We close the public comment. Now we're on to a motion. Here we go.
I'll motion that we approve the Chico Canyon Road annexation number 8, certification of protest hearing.
Hey, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Public comment. Anyone from the public like to speak on something not on the agenda? Jump right up there. Okay, reports and communication, executive officers report.
So there's not a ton of new stuff here this morning. I just want to advise you that the special district election is still occurring. As you see in your form, we have about 13 out of 20 ballots submitted. We have to get to 20 in order to have a quorum. As for those of you who've been around a while, you know this sometimes takes multiple cycles of elections. The 13 we have now are the same 13 we always get up front in the first round. And then we have to start reaching out, and what usually we do is we start sending reminder emails out to agencies to put this on their agenda and vote. So having said that, I don't expect this will conclude by the close of the election period. I don't think we're going to get 7 more votes in.
I just wondered if the Durham Rec and Park District was one of those 13.
They were,
Oh, that's good.
and I would not put them on the spot if they weren't.
I was going to.
So that's all I have on that matter. I do just want to touch base down under administration. It's not on the notes here, but just to give you all a further update. So we are continuing working on that contractual agreement with the county, and Supervisor Kimmelshue, as chair of the Board of Supervisors, has assured us that no matter what, we will get through this and we won't lose our payroll contact with Human Resources until such time we execute a contract. And there's a June 26th date out there in a county letter that suggests that's when it's terminated. I think Mr. Brown's memo pointed out that that was in error, that the staff did not have the ability to issue that letter. Having said that, I've met with county staff, the HR department, and we have a positive dialogue going for it, and I expect we'll have results. And I don't think it'll be a problem, but that's the update on that. And I would appreciate that the supervisors continue to encourage their staff to work with us to a successful outcome. Under the project notes, there's really not a lot of new update there, so I'm not going, unless anybody has a question about any particular thing listed, I'm not going to go through any of those. I will, with the sole exception of the city, we have a regional sewer and water MSR that's underway. It's not just underway, it's now complete. We have the public review draft in our possession. We will be putting that out for notice this week. And it will be heard tentatively on your June 1st calendar. So just, that was a long project. It is a very, very voluminous document with a lot of data. So be prepared to read 500 pages, all right? Jumping down to LAFCo, I have none written there, but I do want to just, your staff, the three of us, along with Mr. Brown, we attended the LAFCo workshop in Murphy's, California, neat little town. If you've never been there, I recommend it. We had it was a good conference, workshop, I should say. It's just staff. None of the electeds come to this particular one. So it's a lot more free flowing and a lot more questions. I think I learned stuff, and I know Mr. Brown gave a great presentation on CEQA. He and Marcia Birch, who sometimes sits in his place here. I can tell you, I looked on the back side of the survey that was done that I can see. His session was rated the top session at the, and it was, I think Ms. Costa can say, she sat up front taking notes, that they provided a tremendous background on the whole CEQA process and how it relates to LAFCo. And I learned a few new things, as I think everybody in the room did. Shannon and I also gave a presentation on team building, which is how to build your LAFCo and how to recruit and retain employees. And we just went through that, and thank God we found two wonderful individuals who could fill those seats, but that's not the case around the state entirely. That's my highlights, but I will let the others speak if they will have anything they want to share about their experience at the workshop. If not, that's okay. All right.
So did Mr. Brown get a blue ribbon or a trophy or something?
He got a hat.
I got.
How many people attend this? Whoa. How many people attend this conference? I didn't know there's facilities in Murphy's large enough to hold something
So
like this.
there is not like a hotel large enough to do that, but it was at Ironstone Vineyards, which
Oh.
is about a mile or so outside of town and has a big area. And it's a very nice venue for any number of things, but they have an amphitheater for outdoor concerts. And we didn't have a concert, but and there was about 120 attendees. And again, it's just
Wow.
it's just staff. It's
Sure.
it's not any of the elected. So
And this is statewide.
statewide.
Wow,
So we have folks come from San Diego, and far away is Trinity and Humboldt, Del Norte even. Yeah, so the whole state. It was a
Good. I'm glad you had it in a rural county. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Help the economy of a rural county.
Yeah,
So everybody was in charge of getting their own rooms and finding lodging.
they provide obviously the choices and
Okay.
better rates if you come in under our program. So it is yeah,
Wow, fantastic.
it's a great opportunity to go see not just what you can learn, but it's really easy to see what other LAFCOs are doing. And I will say this, since they didn't speak for themselves, but our dialogue was, I think they realized that, sitting around that table of lots of people who've been around LAFCO and other LAFCOs for longer than they have, that we are at the top of our game, and a lot of things that they learned were things we're already doing. And in some cases, things that people were saying we do better. And so it's not that it's a pat on our backs as much as I think they got to see that, our operation is running pretty smoothly compared to some others. So
There's a whole new generation.
Allergies.
I thought that was antiques. It's not.
Well, that too.
Oh, okay.
The other two things about LAFCO are just the pieces of legislation that we continue to push. Our omnibus bill was approved, and we're still working on the indemnification issue that, as Mr. Brown can tell you, it's just a long slog to convince some others that we need that same right. But we're going to continue to work it and see if we get there. The last thing I wanted to just talk to you about was Brown Act proposals, LAFCO survey. I was charged with sending out a survey around the state to see how all the LAFCOs want to deal with this variety of new Brown Act legislation that's posted. There's 6 bills currently in the legislature. 2 have been kicked over to 2-year bills. So we still have 4 that are active. They're all slightly different. They all do something slightly different. And so the survey was basically what do you LAFCOs around the state want Cal LAFCO to do in terms of dealing with these pieces of legislation? And since again, I ran the survey, I already know the numbers. The overwhelming majority of folks want Cal LAFCO to basically stay out of it, let it be a local decision. But here's the big points. A lot of folks want to be back in person. They just believe that it's the right way to conduct public meetings in person. That doesn't mean that Zoom is terrible. It just means that's how they philosophically feel. I would share with you, I feel that way. We do both. We obviously are in person, but we also Zoom out the meeting. So anybody who can't make it can still listen and see what we've done, but they can't make comments live on the air. Very few LAFCOs want to go that full route of going like full access, comments, everything. This commission has told me that you want to be back in person. So we're going to continue to be in person, and we're going to continue to Zoom out our meetings for anybody who wants to listen. And if they want to come down, they're welcome to do so.
Curious what the reasons are. Is it convenience or is it fear?
To go to Zoom,
Yeah, no, to go away from Zoom and be in person. They want to stay with Zoom because of convenience, or they want
Yeah,
to not go to person because of fear.
No, you nailed it. I mean, on LAFCO, state LAFCO, we have a few members that never come in person. They're pretty irregular, and they're the ones really pushing for the Zoom, and it's convenience. It's not fear.
there's a good argument in some, like San Bernardino County, for instance. If you have to go from one end to the other end, that's a 4-hour drive. And if you're a supervisor and you have 2 meetings on opposite sides of the county, Zoom helps them tremendously. It also brought up places like around Tahoe, where you have snow and mountains. Sometimes getting over a mountain to get to a meeting is not possible.
Okay.
These are sort of more rare geographic related, but the lion's share of folks are concerned that if we go out to Zoom and we do it on a regular basis, there's all kinds of rules in place that we have to follow. And as you all know, as elected officials or appointed officials, that the more rules you have, the more places you can make a mistake, the more things that can go wrong, and then you get challenged on what you did. And unfortunately, we can't control whether the internet goes out in the middle of a meeting. If it does, we're stuck. The meeting has to stop. All action ceases. I don't think that's appropriate when we have the opportunity to be in person. So anyhow, that's where that whole issue is. I'm very comfortable with what you all have asked me to do, and I think we're doing a good job of our hybrid model. Although we have had commissioners who obviously would prefer sometimes to Zoom in. But as some of you know from that law, to Zoom in requires and actively participate requires a whole lot of other steps that have to be taken. Getting special permissions, having an emergency reason. And there's all these things that I wouldn't want to burden all of you with making a decision every meeting, like Todd can't make it. Let's decide whether Todd has a good idea or a good reason not to be here. And it's like going back to grade school somehow. So anyhow, having said that, I'll continue to do my part with Cal LAFCO, but
All right, you know,
anyhow, that's all I have on that. And if you have any feedback for me on that, aside from what I've said, I'm happy to hear.
Bill, I just have a question about the Aqua Alliance letter that you sent out and whether or not there's something you need to respond or we need to know about that.
You want to take that one?
There's no requirement. Arguments are pretty.
And on that note, that protest hearing concludes tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And then it'll be over and we'll begin to count the ballots.
all right. Is that the end of your report?
That's the end of my report, sir.
Any more questions or comments? No? Yeah. Correspondence?
We have none. Other than what Mr. Bradley just brought up.
We're adjourned. We'll see you here at June 1st.
Took you 40 minutes, Bill.
Wasn't for them big oni